Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video we're taking a look at a pretty spicy Pokemon in the Open Ultra League, Bouffalant. These battles were submitted to the channel by a fellow content creator and Twitch streamer WallyDog619, so many thanks for the battle submission, and definitely go check him out on Twitch. Bouffalant, I believe it's a regional around the area of New York City. The moveset is Mud Shot, Skull Bash, and Earthquake, so without a bait move, it does make it tough to run, but against all odds, Wally is able to go on a win streak with the Mon. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches and check out Bouffalant in action in the Open Ultra League. Hopping into the first match, picking up a pretty decent lead, Bouffalant into Galarian Weezing. Bouffalant, of course, with that coverage move of Earthquake, can hit for massive super effective damage. Weezing builds up to the overheat, they go for it, that does quite a lot of damage. Opponent is going to save switch into Jellicent, and Jellicent will be met with the Earthquake from the Bouffalant. Earthquake will connect. Bouffalant farming up, and we see a switch into the Sylveon, not only catching the charge move, but the catch was timed so that a charm sneaks through as well. Sylveon looking to go for a charm down of the Jellicent. Jellicent is at the Shadow Ball here. We see the shield, and it proves to be a wise one as Jellicent full sends the Shadow Ball. Jellicent is only going to make it to a Surf here. They are short of the Shadow Ball, and Surf not going to threaten Sylveon. Sylveon leaving this matchup with a lot of energy, and Psyshock will hit for super effective damage if the opponent sends back in the Weezing. And they do. Weezing definitely not going to appreciate these Psyshocks. It can live as Psyshock, but it's going to do a lot. We see a shield, we see a pivot into the Charizard in the back. Opponent has Shadow Swampert. And up energy, Charizard can put up a fight here. Blast Burn's gonna hurt. Opponent is gonna let that through with the Swampert. Swampert farming up and going for the charge move just before Charizard is able to make the Dragon Claw. Charizard is gonna let that charge move go. Sylveon does have the potential to go for a Charm down. The Charm goes through. The opponent firing one Mud Shot and the move. Sylveon looking for the Charm down and gets the Charm down. That is big. Sylveon going for the Psyshock here, looking to grab the final shield. Psyshock is shielded. In comes the Bouffalant, and Bouffalant on CMP makes it to the Earthquake. Get that Weezing out of here, and that's a good game. Hopping into the next match, and we see a very tough lead, Bouffalant into Shadow Dragonite. Safe switch Charizard is answered by Tapu Fini, and everything is going wrong in game number 2. Charizard, no baiting here, going straight for the Blast Burn. Blast Burn will connect, and Charizard can actually do surprisingly well into Tapu Fini with a small energy lead. Charizard committing the shield on the Surf. Charizard going to farm up past the Blast Burn and go for the Dragon Claw bait. If this bait is successful, Charizard reaches the Blast Burn if the Tapu Fini tries to farm down, so Tapu Fini is forced to throw energy. And now they're out of energy, which gives Bouffalant the opportunity to look to farm up on a ton of energy. Because if Bouffalant has an energy lead, it can potentially threaten a Skull Bash onto that Shadow Dragonite, and a same type attack bonus Skull Bash is going to destroy Shadow Dragonite. Surf is fired off from the Tapu Fini, the Mud Shot's not doing enough, so Bouffalant is going to go for the Earthquake here. Earthquake, of course, massive overkill. Bouffalant not really having access to a bait move. In comes Sylveon in the back, it's Golisopod. Golisopod farming up energy here, and Liquidation does not threaten a shield from the Sylveon. Sylveon able to withstand that damage, but the debuff is applied. Sylveon continuing to farm. Sylveon is going to be committing the shield as Golisopod baits with the X-Scissor. Sylveon going for the Psyshock. Now this will be grabbing the final shield from the opponent, and that's big, because Wally has energy saved on the Bouffalant. Oh my goodness, the Golisopod making it to the charge move here. Liquidation will get the KO. Can the resisted Mud Shots get the farm down? In comes the Dragonite into a loaded Skull Bash. Bouffalant takes charge, KOs the Dragonite, Mud Shots down a Golisopod, and takes the win. We've got a battle of spice in the next match, Bouffalant versus an XL Primeape. Two better responses in the back, so we see a switch into Charizard. Opponent sends in Tentacruel, and oh my goodness, is it good to bait out this Tentacruel, as that would be a nightmare for Sylveon. Blast Burn will connect onto the Tentacruel, and Tentacruel is going to let that go. Charizard shielding up the Scald. Do we see a debuff? We do see a debuff. That is extremely unfortunate. If the Charizard isn't debuffed there, Charizard can potentially make a play for switch, but now with the debuff, this is looking incredibly rough. Charizard going for a double shield here, trying to make the play for switch, and we see a second debuff. Oh my goodness, the Tentacruel going 2 for 2 on Scald debuffs. Dragon Claw will be no shielded, just going for another Dragon Claw, just doing whatever he can to make a play for switch advantage, and the opponent gives up switch. In comes Primeape. Primeape is going to be hit with a double debuff to Dragon Claw here, and Dragon Claw will be no shielded. But Primeape's energy can't do anything against Sylveon. Sylveon is going to be hit with a charge move here. Primeape fires off the close combat. What is in the back? Oh, they're double weak to Charm! And Sylveon can do extremely well here. We see a switch into the Bouffalant, and Bouffalant is going to catch the Aerial Ace. Bouffalant does have some pretty solid bulk to it, able to withstand the charge moves from Mandibuzz like it's nothing. Mandibuzz goes for the Dark Pulse. Dark Pulse definitely going to hit harder. Oh my goodness, Bouffalant just not able to get to a move. Bouffalant will be hit with another Dark Pulse, farming up and going for the Skull Bash. Not only will this do massive damage, but this is going to buff up the defense for the Bouffalant. Bouffalant continuing to farm. Primeape gets the snipe, but this just sets up energy for Sylveon. The question is, can Mandibuzz make it to 2 Aerial Aces? This is going to be close. Sylveon gets the charm through, of course, because it's 3-turn versus 3-turn. Aerial Ace connects. They're at the back-to-back. Is this going to KO the Sylveon? This is the rank 1 Sylveon. Sylveon able to hang on, and the win streak continues. Moving into the next match, leading Bouffalant into Jellicent. Pretty nice matchup for the Bouffalant. Jellicent staying in this matchup, probably wondering what the heck is this Buffalo Pokemon on their screen. Jellicent overfarms by 1. This is a Bubble Beam Jellicent. You've got to be kidding me. Bubble Beam was run on Jellicent prior to it being given Surf, but with Bubble Beam, this is kind of uncomfortable actually, because Bouffalant is just going to be doing less and less damage the more Bubble Beams that are thrown. The good news is, of course, is that the Jellicent can't really do any damage to the Bouffalant since Bubble Beam is an incredibly low-powered move. Bouffalant continuing to farm up a ton of energy here. Bouffalant, oh no, throws the Earthquake on alignment and the opponent punishes as they get the catch onto Trevenant. Trevenant will be answered with Charizard. Charizard farming up, and Charizard is going to make it to the Blast Burn. Blast Burn into the Trevenant will secure the KO. Opponent sends back in the Jellicent. I mean, they can go for a Bubble Beam, but Bubble Beam, even when it's super effective, does almost nothing, so they will go for the Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball connects. They don't want to take energy from the Zard, so they go Shadow Ball into Bubble Beam, and they will get the farm down. Now the question is, oh my goodness, we see the Buffalo enter the field. In the back, it's Cobalion. They have seen that the Buffalo has Earthquake here, so Earthquake will be shielded. In comes Sylveon. Sylveon is going to be resisting the double kicks. Opponent has to land Stone Edge as if they want to do meaningful damage. Stone Edge will connect. Opponent probably going to start baiting now, as Sylveon is going to feel pressured to shield, as a Stone Edge would come close to KOing. So I would expect this to be a bait, and it is a bait. That's a bit unfortunate. Sylveon going for the Psyshock. Psyshock will hit for neutral here, and unfortunately for the Cobalion, they are rapidly running out of HP. Sylveon committing the shield. Cobalion full sends the Stone Edge, and that should be game. In comes the Jellicent, and Jellicent is going to get knocked out by the Psyshock. All that's left is the low health Cobalion in the back. In comes the Bouffalant. Bouffalant just cannot get the Mud Shot farm down. Sacred Sword from Cobalion will get the KO, but one charm from the Sylveon takes the win. Moving into the next match, leading Bouffalant into Galvantula, okay? This is a battle of neutral damage here. Opponent going to be firing off lunges to lower Bouffalant's attack, whereas Bouffalant is going to be buffing up its defense with Skull Bash. Galvantula goes for the lunge. That does quite a lot of damage. Bouffalant farming up and going for the Skull Bash on very good timing. This is a debuffed Skull Bash, but the opponent will still commit the shield. Bouffalant continuing to farm. Do we see a shield from the Bouffalant? Here we do. Ideally, if you're going for the Skull Bash, you are going to want to shield the first move. Opponent is going to save switch into Jellicent, banking a ton of energy on the Bouffalant, and then resetting the debuff by sending in Sylveon. I quite like this play. Bouffalant's energy, now that it's not going to be debuffed, is going to be a lot more valuable later on. Sylveon farming up, going for the Psyshock, and that looked like a CMP tie versus the Jellicent. Psyshock into the Jellicent will connect, and at this point, they have to Shadow Ball if they want the KO. They do go for the Shadow Ball, and down goes Sylveon. In comes Charizard. Charizard is going to look for a one-shield farm down here, looking to leave with a massive amount of energy to threaten whatever the opponent has in the back. Opponent has a Mandibuzz in the back, and Charizard up energy can do quite well here. Charizard Blast Burn, that's gonna hurt. Mandibuzz continuing to farm. We see a switch into the Bouffalant, firing off the Skull Bash. Skull Bash will connect onto the Mandibuzz, and it's the CMP sack swap. Oh my goodness. Dark Pulse gets the KO. What a play. Now Charizard looking for the farm down here, needing energy to get rid of Galvantula. Charizard able to get the farm down. Opponent sends in Galvantula. Zard's at the back-to-back Blast Burns here. No baiting. Blast Burn gets called. In comes the Jellicent, and Charizard will be able to take it. The CMP sack swap. What a play. And with that sack swap, that secures the victory. Things were looking rough in the mid-game, but what a play. Very nicely done. Moving into the next match, leading Bouffalant into Mandibuzz. Not the most comfortable matchup for Bouffalant ever because the mud shots, of course, aren't doing a whole lot of damage. Ideally, you would love to get this aligned onto the Sylveon. Mandibuzz goes for the Dark Balls. That does some solid damage. Bouffalant farming up and going for this Skull Bash on very nice charge move timing. Skull Bash into the Mandibuzz will connect. Mandibuzz now going to have to deal with the fact that their charge moves are doing less into the buffed defense of the Bouffalant. Opponent safe switches a Buzzwole, and that's going to get punished. Buzzwole has nothing that can even hit for neutral here. Everything is resisted. They go for the superpower, and now Charizard just farms down. Charizard with a massive energy advantage. If the opponent sends in the Mandibuzz, even Mandibuzz, with how bulky it is not going to appreciate this. Oh boy. But you know what can tank Blast Burns? What can tank Blast Burns is the Tentacruel that just entered the field. Tentacruel going to be hit with Blast Burn after Blast Burn from the Charizard. Charizard connects with the Blast Burn. Charizard making it to another Dragon Claw. This will not KO, but it is going to be getting the Tentacruel low. Tentacruel commits the shield. Tentacruel gets the farm down. In comes the Bouffalant. Bouffalant has a tough call to make. Committing the shield in case it's the Scald, and it is the Scald. In comes the Mandibuzz. Tried to go for the Earthquake. Opponent catches on the Mandibuzz, but they think it's a Skull Bash. Opponent not familiar with the moveset of Bouffalant. They shield a double resisted ground move on the Mandibuzz, and the opponent concedes the match. Picking up a pretty decent lead in the next match, Bouffalant into Steelix. Steelix, of course, is the new bane of the Ultra League. The combination of its bulk and the constant Breaking Swipe spam does make it extremely difficult to play around. Opponent is going to do what Steelix users do best, which is counter 4, Breaking Swipe, and not worry whatsoever about proper charge move timing. Steelix shielding up the Earthquake. Bouffalant is going to be 2 stages debuffed here, so I would like to see saving the energy and switch, and that's exactly what happens. Saving the energy on the Bouffalant, resetting the debuff by switching out, and sending in the Charizard. Charizard can withstand multiple Breaking Swipes and will be able to apply a lot of pressure with the Blast Burn. Even though the Blast Burn is single debuffed, this is going to hurt. Blast Burn into the Steelix. Opponent double shielding the Steelix, so whatever they have in back really does not want to see Charizard. They go for another Breaking Swipe. Charizard able to withstand that damage. This is now a double debuff Blast Burn. This will not KO. Steelix able to withstand the damage. Charizard gets to the Dragon Claw. This is resisted and double debuff, so it will not be enough to KO. Steelix leaves with energy. Bringing in the Sylveon to soak the damage might be nice. He's going to send in the Bouffalant. Bouffalant can take the Breaking Swipe, but it's now going to be very low HP, and Bouffalant is back to being debuffed. In the back, opponent has Virizion. Bouffalant going to fire off the single debuff Skull Bash. Skull Bash does quite a lot of damage. In comes the Sylveon. With the Steelix gone, they have no counter to Charm, and the opponent resigns the match. As you can see here, this set was a 5-0. I believe there were 2 battles from a previous set, so this now makes a 7-game win streak. And now we move into the final match, leading Bouffalant into Shadow Alolan Sandslash. Please tell me this is Shadow Claw, and it is. Let's go, Bouffalant. Bouffalant farming up a ton of energy, going for a Skull Bash here, anticipating the opponent is going to commit a shield, looking to buff up the defense. And the opponent no shields. Oh no, that Earthquake would have been lethal. And that is a bit unfortunate. The Bouffalant is extremely buffed up. Opponent now going to send in a Dragon Breath Giratina, and this is why you can't safe switch Dragon Breath Giratina. If the opponent has a Fairy type, you just lose on the spot. Sylveon is going to be able to tank charge moves for days. The Dragon Breaths do absolutely nothing, and Sylveon is going to lead with a massive amount of energy. So the opponent was actually not in a terrible spot there, but by safe switching that Dragon Breath Giratina, they're now in a pretty dire situation. In back, they have Charizard. Charizard is going to be hit with a Moonblast. Went for the Blind Moonblast, and that is a Shadow Shiny Charizard. But Shadow Charizard takes a surprising amount of damage from Charm. The Charizard now very low on health, but having a massive amount of energy, and now we see the Charizard mirror, letting it through. It's the Blast Burn. Opponent sends in the Sand Slash, and that energy is going to be caught onto the Bouffalant. Ice Punch, not a problem for Bouffalant. Bouffalant going for another Skull Bash here. At this point, just looking to buff up its defense. Skull Bash will be shielded. That looks to be a CMP tie. Bouffalant is going to let this through. Opponent, Ice Punch will still get the KO. In comes the Charizard. At this point, the Sand Slash is low enough that even a Dragon Claw will be lethal. Charizard going for the Dragon Claw. Sand Slash commits the shield. A-Slash trying to commit to a farm down here. They're recognizing with 2 shields remaining, it's going to have to be a race of fast moves. Charizard versus Charizard, and Wally takes the win with only a few HP left on his Zard. In my view, Bouffalant is a Pokemon that would absolutely benefit from a move update. Granted, I don't know if it learns it in the main series, but giving it a cheaper ground-type charge move, maybe something like Drill Run that we've seen given to a couple Pokemon, or Scorching Sands, would be really nice. Because having Mud Shot and Skull Bash is a really cool combination for a nuke move, as it allows Bouffalant to buff up its defense, but ideally the thing that's holding it back from like meta play, I would say, is typically going to be a lack of a bait move. Anytime you're baiting with an Earthquake, that's probably going to be a bit tough to use, but hey, even so, even though this isn't a Pokemon I'd recommend for climbing, Wally was still able to go on a pretty nice win streak with it, so definite props to him. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're enjoying the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide is sincerely appreciated, so thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.